Thank you very much, guys. Great cast there. And I am with the duo lane of CLG, Stixay and Aframu. That was a pretty epic series, you two, but you managed to pull it out. How are you both feeling kind of after a pretty interesting 2-0?
Feeling pretty good. I'm glad we were actually able to win one game this week since we lost the first game, but yeah, it was not as expected, so, but it's all right.
I'm feeling great.
As per usual, I have to ask, so Stixay, you did have some really strong performances on the Ashe. That blast cone play in particular was pretty inspired. Is that something that come up in practice, or was it just kind of a play you made in the moment?
Oh, I mean, there's a blast cone, and then there's a Corki, so I just took it and just killed him.
Nice. And I have to say, just in general, with Doublelift leaving, I know you were quite vocal about stepping up to be probably the best AD carry in North America. You guys have always been a very strong bottom lane. How do you think you guys stack up versus all the talent that's out there?
Well, I think me and Afro are definitely amongst like the top 3 bot lanes in NA, so hopefully we'll be able to prove that this split.
Oh, same.
And Afro, I have to ask just one last thing. You've always been a strong in-game leader. It feels like in those rough games, you're definitely there behind the team making the calls. What was kind of the end of those 2 games as far as shot calling goes for you?
It was actually pretty fun. We could have ended the game at around 30 minutes, but I didn't want to. So we were practicing our engages, team fighting the whole game, even though it worked really bad, but it's what we need to practice, so we took the game as that.
Fair enough. Well, thank you both for joining me, but we are going to go back to the analyst desk for a little bit more on the game.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. Aframu.
Good to see his spirits up a little
exactly.
bit.
Having some fun with the fact that that was an extraordinarily long game. And for the fact that it was a 2-0, that series in general was very lengthy.
And especially the way these comps work, this is usually not the kind of game that goes super late. We have Envy taking a very damage-heavy poke comp, CLG picking a pretty dive-heavy comp with Nautilus, Cat, and Olaf, with Ashe being able to start off. So usually these games are very, very explosive in favor of the, especially early game, the poke comp that Envy had.
Right, I think that's kind of the key here. We had 2 very distinct team compositions that match up in a very specific way. If the poke early game composition can get out to a decent lead, they can kind of just steamroll as long as they play well, right? They got to play smart and methodical from that point. But if you do happen to reach that 35-plus minute mark where the more traditional team fighting, 2 tank, 3 backliners comp gets to an even gold value or just that 3-4 item mark, it can go completely in the other direction. So now what we want to do is we're going to run through a whole bunch of this game, and we're going to kind of walk our way through how these 2 team comps ultimately matched up.
Right, so you would think that Envy has these superior laners. They should grab the advantage early, but there was a kill in the top side, there was a solo kill in mid lane, and now there's a huge dive going on in favor of CLG, going to pick up 2 more kills under the turret, which ultimately leaves them able to take the bottom turret. So you think, great, this is going to be an amazing game for CLG. They're supposed to lose early and they're winning.
Yeah, this is that was at level 5, level 6, right? So already the team that is supposed to excel late is ahead early.
Right, so you think that's terrible. CLG flips their bot lane to the top side to try and keep extending this lead. They're down TP advantage and force really, really hard onto Envy, who are able to turn around and get a bunch of kills back in their favor. This is after, of course, Stixay and Aframu already blew their ultimates, so they had almost no chance of winning this fight. Huhi goes in for a cleanup kill, overextends, gets killed back, and then Stixay and Aframu, for some reason,
right, yeah,
God knows why.
We're at a 2-for-1 right now, but this move here, this decision is very suspect when you just fought the entire enemy team on the top side of the map to push up without your summoners. You're absolutely going to give over a couple more kills.
And this is kind of similar to what we saw in the TL game, where after a play goes bad, they still are sticking around. Now, Envy, one thing to their credit is they do seem to have good early game plays. And this is an example of it where they get the lead back after that misstep by CLG, and they're going to get a really clean engage here from Ninja, going on to Huhi and putting him back into the team of Envy, who's gonna kill Huki and be able to snowball for a 3-for-0.
Right.
And things, once again, starting to look good.
Yeah, and just for context, that play there was kind of right before that 20-minute mark, so still early enough in the game where this Envy team composition can excel in terms of damage against these tanks. But here we have CLG and the prowess of, or the effectiveness rather, of a tank TPing in behind the enemy team.
Right, and that's the concern that you have with the 2 team comps. Envy should have that lead early. They were able to grab it back from CLG, but then once they overextend a little bit in the jungle, get a TP flank off by the Nautilus, it goes horribly wrong for Envy. But then the game turned into a total fiesta.
Right, yeah. If you had asked me, if you had just shown me those clips there, I think both of us would have said, okay, after that, my assumption is that CLG closes out the game in probably the next 15 or so minutes playing it smartly. Well, that's not the case. It goes another 16 minutes, cresting that 50-minute mark. And, of course, as we mentioned, Aframu was in a bit of jest around that, but it's still highlighting some issues for CLG around what used to be very crisp team play. That was the element of CLG that was always the constant, was that they played the map well.
Yeah, and it's just so strange to see this kind of flipping around. They're supposed to be the team coming in that should be one of the most consistent teams. They're struggling again. It happened a little bit in summer last split where despite, keeping their whole team together after a good MSI run, they struggled. And it could be a little case here, but I don't see why that would be, because MSI, you might have you're a little tired from playing for so long. Here, they should be fresh, practiced, and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we didn't mention it after game 1. Player of the game went to Huhi. Game 2, though, this one here is going to go to Stixxay. Although we did already point out, I know in the replay, a couple missed positions by him, and there were multiple throughout. Then again, it was a game riddled by mistakes. Ultimately, it came down to that final team fight where his DPS was the key.
Yeah, he was able to flash in, pick up a couple kills, and once the carries were dead off his play, the rest of the team can move in and finally close the game out. But the whole game, everyone had good points and bad points, and so you can kind of take your pick.
Right, you kind of got a sense of it in that interview too, that both he and Afram are acutely aware of the fact that that was not a pretty series for them. Yes, they're happy to get the victory. They know there is so much more to go in terms of improvement, and specifically for them as a duo in the bot lane, with Doublelift having left the league. Yeah. This is the duo that a lot of people will look at and say, well, they should come in kind of in that #1 slot. We're not really seeing that so far yet this split.
Right, and I think the crazy thing is that the person often most criticized on this team is Huhi, and you can probably say he's their best performing member right now. He had a really good Aurelion Sol game, good Echo game, good Katarina game. He's consistently putting out good performances on things that aren't exactly meta picks, and he's absorbing a lot of bans in the draft. So he's overall in-game and out-of-game doing a lot of good things for CLG.
Yeah, so again, the victory coming in for CLG does move them up to 1-1, so they got their first win here in the split. They're going to be happy about that. Now, Envy, we cannot forget the fact that this has all been done without their starting jungler, and that's where I want to close, is that we can be as critical as we want, but things are going to change when Lyra finally arrives.
Right, it's kind of almost a throwaway weekend in that sense about what do we learn from Envy. I think the one thing you can say is that their early game and individual skills seems decent, that they've been able to get leads in the early game and make plays, but they do lack the cohesion in the late game to really get things done. And I expect that hopefully when Lyra comes, their early game continues to stay good, and then they can clean things up a little bit.
Very much so. All right, well, there's still more league action coming up after this break. Team Liquid will face off against FlyQuest, so don't go anywhere.
Do you guys ever think, oh my god, does anyone else think Twitch mods can't stop our thoughts?
Can they ban us all?
Get him.
Lee Sin went in.
It's on Jake, Jake, go up. Hey, Darshan, come take.
Yeah.
I'll back up right now. I'm one hit.
Quick will come.
Darshan drop! Huhi right back into the fight! Huhi making more plays! Double kill to mid laner! Xmithie making more damage! Here comes Alex! Package into the fight! 4 dead! Envy! They've got themselves a 3 for 4!
Nice.
Nice, you got him. Nice. He goes out.
board. Let's go, Huhi. Huhi!
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, I can arrow this guy. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Yeah. Alright. Holy shit.
I'm ready
too.
Alright, dude, look, this is gonna be a long season, guys.
Wait, actually, don't arrow anymore.
Seraph looking to turn it right back around, Huhi! He doesn't have the damage! Seraph! What in the world? A double on the Hakuo! Dredge line on the Ninja Stixxay! Damage just being funneled into these guys! And ladies and gentlemen, CLG will take game 2!